Hey everybody, welcome to my chess stream here on lichess and Twitch. I'm International Master William Paschall. We're streaming classical and blitz games here against viewers. My handle on lichess is Sparkle Horse. On Twitch, we're Slaggy. Let me get the window up here. I had it up, but OBS doesn't like to cooperate. Alright, window capture up. There it is. Gotta size it. Welcome everybody. Or who's here so far. It's kind of early. I know it's a morning stream. Last night we had a really fun simul against 25 players. Actually 24 because one of them dropped really early, which happens quite so often. Here we go. Alright, let's try this. Andrea, what's up? I see your challenge. We've got a challenge from Andrea and Shansha 007. I haven't seen Shansha in a while. I mean, we were worried about you, Shansha. Edit scene. Video capture device. Order up. So, yesterday we had the simul. Every Sunday, every week, we have a 40-40 simul here for 20-25 players. And yesterday was no exception. It went pretty well. I think I had 3 losses and 4 draws. Lots of interesting games. So what's up in the chess world? At the moment, Hugavines, I guess. Hugavane. I don't know how to pronounce it. Hugavane, probably. Hugavane. I need Jeroen here to correct my Dutch pronunciation. Hugavane. How do we say that? So Andrea Perone, Shansha, still not awake yet. Booker Smith challenging me to chess 960. That's cool. Somebody was saying we should do more chess 960. One of our viewers saying they like the chess 960. Olaf, I think. Let's see. Lord Alamo, that's his name. And we can get started. All right, Andrea, Shansha, Booker Smith. We haven't seen Saddest Troll for a while, so he's sort of abandoned his play here on lichess. I hope it doesn't have to do with me not letting him play rated games anymore. It seems like ever since that he hasn't been playing, but I think that's not the reason. All right, Andrea, let's try something else. A little classical. We've tested your wing gambit in the Sicilian quite a bit. We try a Petrov for Russian defense. Yesterday, I unpinned knight, captured my queen. But you didn't play my simul, did you, Andrea? I don't recall you being in the simul. You must be talking about another game? Morning. How are things over there in Hungary? Where are you, Booker Smith? Are you in the US? Yeah, that's right. Bishop c4 now. So, I don't know. I don't really like this variation for white. I think it allows black to equalize. But it's not bad. You know, white isn't... Probably white isn't worse. I'm kind of tripping over my words this morning, guys. How are things over here in Hungary? Well, they seem to be pretty good. Pretty good. Playing d5. Now, I guess queen h5 would lose a piece for white. No, he could play queen h5. That would be weird, though. That would be a weird line. Queen h5, g6, queen f3, knight g5. And then he has some weird move like queen e3 there. But I'm not recommending that. It doesn't look really safe. I just play bishop e6. It's not a good idea, Andrea. Knight takes f7. I have the feeling that I might have some kind of in-between move here. And queen f6 looks very, very fundamentally interesting. Queen f6 threatening mate on f2. And then I grab the knight with the queen so that Whew, that looks like a strong move for black. Queen f6. If I take with the king, he plays queen h5 check. Actually, that's probably not clear either, is it? Yeah, queen h5 check. g6, queen takes d5 check is okay for white, obviously. So the queen f6 does look rather awkward for white. I don't see a defense per se. Yeah, nothing special happening here in Hungary. Railbird 80, what's up? Purdue University, Indiana. Indiana. If you've ever heard of my friend, I'm spacing out now. What's his name? God, I'm getting old and I have this like degenerative memory loss. Nick Adams, that's it. Nick Adams is a master from Indiana. Also the home state of the late great Emery Tate. Castles, we win a piece. The late great Emery Tate rhymes. I'm probably not the first person to say that. Maybe I am. I've been through Indiana, never really spent any time there, but I have a lot of family from Illinois. So, queen takes f7, we're up a piece. Andrea, nice try. Heads up, but you didn't analyze deep enough. We got this queen f6 thing. Queen f6 thing taking the fun out of it. Bishop c4, it's not really recommended, but it's probably good enough for a draw. I've seen occasionally like Grandmaster games where some weird GMs might play bishop c4 just on a lark or something, but basically after bishop c4, knight takes e4, white can play knight c3, going into basically what is this like gambit variation. Knight takes c3, d takes c. White has some compensation there, so the easiest line for black is like knight c3, knight f6, which just equalizes after knight c3. And otherwise, I mean, you can take the pawn on e5, but I don't think white has anything at all. We're taking this. We're kind of ready to look at other states. I'm going west. Rook takes e4. Now I guess bishop e7 would be safest here. I've got an extra piece I can afford to give back, maybe a pawn or something, if I need to catch up in development. No problem. I'm not greedy. You can have a pawn back if you want. You can take that c4 pawn if you like, sir. So, that's one way to do it. The threat is bishop b2 or bishop a3. I really should just castle, I think, and be practical here. We have some counterplay. Rest in peace, Emery Tate. Yeah, I was really saddened by the loss of Emery. We had our disagreements, but I considered him a friend. And Andrea overlooked the counterplay. You know, sometimes we do that. Sometimes we see just things for ourselves. And I was on the defensive, like trying to, consolidate my position after he sacrificed the piece. And so when you're on the offensive, sometimes you don't look for attacking moves from the opponent. And when I castled, he views it as a defensive move, doesn't stop to think about like the fact that I could have a threat. And this is a common sort of psychological moment. Oftentimes when you have a position where the other guy hasn't made a threat the whole game, like I in this case hadn't really made any threats, except for the mate on f2 earlier. So you kind of forget and let your guard down. Understandable blunder in a way. Not that it's really not forgivable, but you can understand. he thought he had initiative or something, but it's possible for the other side to have threats. Okay, Shansha. Bronx Defense says Emery Tate's kid is a kickboxer. I did not know that. Where's that, in like the UK or something? I thought he had a kid in the UK. Alright. C4. Knight F3. What are we going to do? Something safe. I don't feel like playing in the second game of the stream a really, really sharp game. Shansha with Slav defense. That's fine by me. It's a positional game. Blue Crow says hi there. What's up, everybody? We're going to be streaming till 12:30. Traditional 2.5 hour morning Blitz and Classical stream here. So we've got what, E6, Indiana. So knight to C3. Shansha now played E6. I said C6. Did I say C6? And I said Slav defense. That's really weird. I mean, I like... Isn't it weird? I just did this Freudian thing where he played D5 and I said it's Slav defense. I guess because he's played the Slav defense before or something. But actually he plays the Grunfeld a lot. Obviously not a possibility now. But I don't know why I said Slav defense before he even played C6. And then he ends up playing like C4, E6, knight C3, C6. So we did a Freudian suggestion or something. Guys, I had the Simul last night. I had a tournament game yesterday in my Budapest Teen Championship, my first game. And I offered a draw in like a much better position. So I feel kind of bummed about that. I was complaining about it during my stream, but the first tournament game that I've played in like 4 months, and I didn't feel really confident because my opponent is normally really, really, really tough with white, but he also hasn't played in a long time. So it ended up being a situation where like both of us weren't really that sure about the opening. And neither of us really knew who knew anything and who didn't until we figured out that we both knew not that much, you know, about the theory. It was the same as King's Indian. And I feel bad about offering a draw in a better position, but I wasn't sure over the board. It's easy hindsight with checking with the engine and, I don't know, analyzing with some people, and you're like, oh yeah, man, I was an idiot to offer a draw. I mean, it's very easy to say things in hindsight, but let's just play Queen C2, Bishop D3. Is that what I usually do here? Queen C2. No, I'm telling you, I have some kind of... I need some ginkgo biloba, I think. Blue Crow said he blundered yesterday, winning position in the French Cup. Well, that's even worse. Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to offer a draw. But I was telling the story how with this particular opponent, we both had beaten the other guy in lost position, from a lost position, so kind of in the background. What am I thinking here? Queen C2. I usually play Queen C2 and then Bishop D3, I think. I'm just wondering why I even bother to play Queen C2. Right. It's kind of a waiting move. Like there's this tension in the Queen's Gambit in Slav when you've got this pawn tension, and oftentimes it's a game of chicken. So whoever blinks first is like making a concession, making a mistake. I don't want to give black a good like Queen's Gambit accepted type position. Queen's Gambit accepted. Queen's Gambit exchange variation. Having a little trouble speaking today. I don't know why. So how did the Hyper Bullet Marathon go? Any of you guys play in that? Insanity? I missed the Hungarian Blitz Championship on Saturday because I was tired from going out Friday, and I also had this tournament game Sunday morning. Decided to limit my activities. So G6 now. I guess this is what I've played for the most part. At this point now, white could make other moves. I've experimented with like rook d1, rook c1, but it's just not clear where this rook belongs at this early stage. And other waiting moves like h3 and a3 are really kind of weakening and relatively not that functional. So there's a lot of theory on this Moscow variation. I don't think I've ever played a game with Shansha in the Moscow variation of the Semi-Slav. I have played a lot of strong players like Ivan Sokolov, Filipov, Novikov, Strapunsky, just to name a few of the players that I've played in this line, most of whom I've lost to, but not everybody. I lost to Sokolov and Filipov, and those were the oldest games. And they later had draws with Novikov and Strapunsky, but this variation is really, really hard for white to get an advantage. I mean, it's notoriously difficult. And I think that my mistake against those players in the beginning, how I lost to Novikov and I lost Novikov and Filipov when I was relatively young, where I had a tendency to kind of like overestimate the white center and try to play too aggressively. Like against Ivan Sokolov, I just like played e5 very early, e4, e5, and he undermined my e5 pawn, and I just lost. This is what happens all the time in this variation, so yeah, you got to be careful. Later on, I realized that white has to be really, really thoughtful about whether to push this pawn, and if so, and under what conditions. After those two losses to Filipov and to Ivan Sokolov. And now rook placement. And maybe bishop b3. Also bishop b3, a3. You could play rook d1. Maybe rook a d1. Well, Crusader of Hope. I didn't play the Hyperbolic Marathon because it's too fast and long. But I'm really impressed with Penguin IM. But who is Penguin IM? Is that open? Is that an open title player who Penguin IM is? Is he open about his identity? I was wondering who that is. But is it a secret who that person is? I know that it's in America, or living in America, or it's at least registered an American flag to its account. It claims American residency from its lichess account, for whatever that means. You can say you're from Tibet, I know. So it could be from anywhere, but who is Penguin IM? A4, Plucro? No, A4, no, I would prefer A3, not to put any more pawns on the same color as my bishop. Give the bishop a retreat square at a2. a3 is definitely a candidate move. I'm not afraid of b5. It's not really the idea for black here. Much more often they do a different plan. Oh, Andrew Tang. Okay. Yeah, I don't know this guy. He's very young. Apparently a bullet specialist, though. So, rook on a to d1. Now b6, this is the right theoretical plan for black. And I'm afraid that my queen can actually turn out to be misplaced here, because black will later on have play along the c file, so I'm going to bail out with queen e2, moving my queen again. I mean, sometimes white has stuff like knight e4 hitting the queen, but it doesn't really do anything in this exact position. Not really clear which rook I should put on d1. Maybe it's better to put like rook on c1, rook on d1, or rook on fd1. I don't know. But Paschall avoided the biggest mistake that a lot of people make. They play e5 here. I had the game against Ron Henry who did that. They just like drop the g6 pawn. e5, pawn takes pawn, knight takes, queen takes, g6. I've had I don't know how many games where they drop that g6 pawn. In blitz and even a tournament game. What's that? Queen e7. Okay, maybe a3 to keep him off of b4. Is he ready to play e5 now? e5, d5. That looks kind of dangerous for black. But I sort of run out of useful moves. a3. I'm going to play this. No, he could have considered playing a6 himself, I think. I had a similar game with Strapansky, maybe Novikov too, where they did a6 to prevent bishop a6. But I don't think it should be like a problem for black, per se. You know, if he does something crazy like queen b4, I'd probably play rook d2. I'm just defending my pawn on b2. I'm not really up on the world news today, so I don't know why Bronx is talking about Julian Assange. We're not really into the politics here, but if anybody's like, you know, famous people die, it's okay for you guys to let me know. Jeroen is actually the one who usually does that when people, world famous people, pass away. He's letting us know the grim details. What did I want to say now? e5. So e5, d5 would normally be the idea. e5, d5, what's wrong with d5? Is there something wrong with this? It's not that clear. But alright, queen takes a6. I don't know. I mean, e5's double-edged. It gives me some white squares a little bit. Now we've got tactics. Queen a3 or queen e2, queen e2, queen a3, queen e2, queen a3. Good question. Playing knight d4. Queen a3. Where's my queen going after e3 though? You know, a3, I mean, does it get kind of trapped on that square and stuck there, or is it actually useful? Actually, queen c4 is possible. Doesn't look like a good square exposed there. I'm really not sure. Aston had a stellar performance. He played more than 210 games and lost 2. You serious? In 30-second chess? How is that possible? And he wasn't even in the top, like, 5. Well, he didn't play enough games, obviously. I mean, if you're playing, like, absolute beginners, you'd think, like, you'd, like, blunder your queen or get mated in a few. Okay, I'm just not really very knowledgeable about the ways of the hyper bullet. Masters, but maybe there's something to take away from it. I don't know. What is going on here? Yeah, this is geometrical idea. So at the end of the day, I don't really know. My queen actually ties him down to a7, which could be a kind of useful factor. He's not threatening mate on ah2 at the moment. I wouldn't want to see a bishop e5. But I'm not really sure. What am I doing here? It doesn't seem like I really have anything concrete at all. a6. Yeah. e6 is a stubborn move. Maybe I'm going to change my mind and go back. Yeah, I mean, maybe my queen would have been better at e2, more in the center, more in the game. I sometimes see like queen a3 in the Gruenfeld type positions, but it always seems to be a question of it being out of play. "30 seconds." So far they'll hang queen just for extra 3 seconds on the clock. It's not real chess. I would imagine so. I don't understand. I mean, 1 minute is barely chess as it is. Rook d6. Man, come on. I'm really sure what's going on here. Queen is still ridiculous on a3. Sees everything. He sees everything. He's also an increment specialist, it seems. Mr. Shah. It's gotten to the point where I can almost predict his moves. That I couldn't predict. Maybe I shouldn't go out of my way to protect that. I don't know. Alright, it's just a hyper bullet game now. Whoa. That's fine. Yeah. Okay. Well, you didn't really deserve a draw, but I don't feel like playing. I don't really feel like playing with 3-second increment for the whole game. Booker Smith is playing chess 960 now. I mean, the game was clearly better for white, but I don't like playing bullet, so. Alright. At the end, it was a draw. Alright, Sparkle Horse versus Booker Smith here. Queen on b1, bishops on c1, d1, rook on e1, rook on h1. This looks almost like normal chess, just the weird position of the queen. c4, maybe an English opening, looks valid. Rooks are really normally placed. Knight on a1. This is the worst starting position for the knight. That's a feature here for sure. We almost don't need the castle with the king there. Maybe e4. Could play a quieter system. How's my knight going to get in the game? An English opening? Welcome everybody to my chess stream here. Stale Milk 94. Our computer's also better in bullet. Yeah, they're bullet specialists. But that's not really chess. So welcome to my stream. We also have a YouTube channel, Video Chess Training on YouTube. Don't forget to donate and support the stream. Jeroen's not here. Yeah, you're here. I didn't say hello. Yeah, who you fan? Right. How do you pronounce Hogeveen? How do you pronounce it? That Hogeveen, right? I would guess. c4, c5. How far is that from you, our faithful moderator from the Netherlands? c4, c5. Knight c2 is interesting. I'm usually playing knight c3 in English. Now we're playing knight c2. Good fight yesterday in the simul, Jeroen, as usual. You've been really tough of late. I feel kind of lucky to win that ending against you. You were probably hanging on, but I missed a really brutal win of a rook. Jeroen, did you check the game that we played in the simul afterwards? I was like kind of angry with myself. I could have played like rook takes b3 check and just won a rook on e1. Super Patster says, yeah, tablet. I couldn't imagine playing with tablet, but I guess some people get used to it. Queen e5. Okay, I've been playing chess with a mouse my whole life, so you know, it's like I could never use a trackpad, you know, even before. So tablet's sort of similar in a way. Queen e5. That's a strange move, Booker Smith. You're just putting your queen... Okay, admittedly, it's in a powerful position in the middle of the board. And there isn't an obvious move to exploit it at the moment. ATM, right? Bronx defense. But this is a position that looks like we should be able to harass that queen effectively. You're too tired after the game. Yeah, Hugavane. Okay, so about 1 hour. Yeah, that's the biggest thing happening in the world. There's a lot of talk about Susan Polgar's chess festival or whatever, the Polgar's chess festival here in Budapest, but it's all fluff and you know, not that much substance. So I don't really consider that a serious chess event. Hogeveen is a serious thing. So, still thinking about my tournament schedule. I might play in a tournament here in Hungary in November. There's a good open in Harkán, which is in the southwest near the city of Pécs. Every year it's fairly strong tournament at Thermal Spa in Harkán, which is also like wine country If anybody wants to come down to play a tournament in southwest Hungary, it's a good one. That's in the about a month from now, in the middle to the later half of November. Bronze defense. Now I was just talking about abbreviations. Like, I didn't know, like, that you said I don't care last time. IDK is I don't know, and I said you don't. You said you don't care. I was just joking. I said ATM. I know that's at the moment. Maybe it helps if you do a lot of texting on the telephone, which I don't do. All right, Queen F4. Queen F4 here. Man, you're just provoking me to gain more tempi. I don't think that's a good thing. I'm not sure the E3 is even worthwhile, though. It's worthwhile to defend my d-pawn, I guess. So also opens my... Yeah, it's worthwhile. I mean, it opens my bishop on a new diagonal. It's definitely worthwhile. Yeah. I don't... IDK. I thought IDK was I don't care, but I forgot that care is spelled with a C. That's the problem. Yeah. But anyway, I was just joking about that. Kind of a personal inside joke, you know. Most of the people who are listening are like, what the are you talking about, you know? Oh well. That's the nature of inside jokes. Anyway, so... kind of sorry I didn't play in a while over the board tournament, but maybe we'll go to this one coming up in Hungary. If you guys know any like great chess events, feel free to let me know. You can always contact me. My email is videochesstrainer@gmail.com. It's my dedicated chess email. Also, this is where you would contact me if anybody's interested in lessons or training. I still have availability for teaching, which I'm doing pretty much full time now. videochesstrainer@gmail.com. No spam, please. Knight G3, so way too many tempi here with Queen Booker Smith. Queen E5, Queen F4, Queen H4. It's not good. Now you've got a situation where white has tactical threats and your queen is almost trapped. ATM. Alright, he's defending. He defended against the threat at hand, but it's not enough. So F4. Jeroen's favorite move. It's a Dutch. It's like the ultimate Queen's Indian. Something like that. Too many queen moves. Okay, it's one thing if you're not used to playing chess 960, but in normal chess 960, whatever, you just can't bring the heavy pieces out early. There are certain situations like the Scandinavian where it's somewhat justified to play e4, d5, pawn takes pawn, queen takes pawn. Lately I'm scoring badly. I lost another game in my simul last night against a Ukrainian master strength player in a Scando. I had a decent opening, played a very quiet line, but then I went wrong in the ending. Serenchi, just let me know what you're doing in December. I might have some plans coming up too. Yeah, I'm not sure about Christmas. Christmas is probably pretty tough for me. I was thinking about it, but it's looking unlikely because it's hard to leave home at Christmas. F4, yeah, I'll not leave you hanging though. I'll let you know in the next couple days, Jeroen, which way I decide. I understand. Queen is trapped. Trapped. Just wins the whole queen, and I was flirting with well, it doesn't win the whole queen. It actually only wins queen for rook, but that's enough. This is defended. I was flirting with bishop takes g7 earlier. You know, this combination bishop takes g7, knight f5 check. Actually, Arun, I'm thinking about going to play in Hastings after Christmas. This tournament I've played a number of times because it's easier if it doesn't conflict. I'd like to play in Wake-Kansai, but it just, or Groningen, but it just this conflict with Christmas is awkward. It's better like after Christmas. It's one thing to miss New Year's, but it's another thing to miss Christmas. Okay, when you have a family and stuff. Knight takes e1. Super Patser. Lichess should let you abort games with flagged accounts without punishing you. Oh, by the way, guys, yeah, we're gonna like start in effect here today. It hasn't been an issue in the game so far, but if I get challenged by somebody who has like a totally new account with less than 50 games, I'm not gonna play them. You know, this is kind of like something that's been forced upon me by situations beyond my control, by people who decided to troll me with accounts they just make up that very day. So I really require that everybody, you know, has an account where they've played at least like 50 games or so. Booker Smith going down in flames. A lot of people exploit the fact that it's easy to make new accounts here on lichess. Mate. Bishop and knight checkmate. You guys thought it was hard to do bishop and knight checkmate, but see, it's easy. We've got Thug Life. Now we've got to check to see he's got 101 games. That's okay. If this guy Thug Life had like 20 games here, I'd say, alright, you know what? If it had no games, definitely 20 games. I've got to draw the line somewhere. So, Fresh Clam and Inox, you guys are challenging me to really weird time controls. Inox S, it's too long. I can't afford to spend 30 minutes on one game here on my stream. So Inox S, if you want to play, challenge me to something between 5 and 8 minutes with a small increment. And Fresh Clam, same thing. You've challenged me to 10-2, but that game can last like 25 minutes at least. So please re-challenge me to something shorter, like 5 to 8 minutes with a small increment. Okay, because I can't accept those challenges. I'm going to play Thug Life because he does have 100 games. You know, that's like, okay, that's enough. I mean, at least we know it's not an account that was like created to troll my stream or something. So, Thug Life. Pre-existing accounts. Yeah, I mean, I would prefer accounts with 50 games that weren't created today. But even if it was created today, if you have like 50 games or something in the neighborhood of like 50 games, 40 games, I mean, you know, something to give me a sign that that it's a real account. C4, C5, symmetrical English. So, Bronx Defense, not a fan of seafood, I take it. Living in New England for 15 or 20 years made me actually I've always spent a lot of time of my life at the sea, so I'm a fan of seafood personally. Alright, so C4, E4, it's like a Botvinnik kind of English, very early, but there's no way that black can so easily sort of exploit this type of pawn structure. One way I can try to exploit it is to do an early A6, B5. This pawn is hanging. If I play bishop G7, I temporarily negate the threat of bishop takes C5. So anyway, now I have to defend this pawn. What I was trying to get to was that with this pawn structure, It sort of depends on what white does now, because if he tries to fianchetto, which is like the classic Botvinnik pawn formation or whatever, I think that a6, b5 becomes a really good kind of plan for black. The bishop abandons this diagonal, b5 becomes much easier for black to organize. But like we lost a game to one of these troll accounts, which may have been a computer, or like semi-hybrid, you know, player using a computer for some moves on Friday, where it played this kind of close Sicilian with actually f4, bishop e2, knight f3, and then later sacrificed the pawn with e5. Very, very classic kind of close Sicilian pawn sacrifice, and I just like a dope, I just like walked into it and had a clearly worse position. So I have to be, you know, be aware with black in that game. If anybody was here to see that game, I shouldn't have tried to win the pawn on e5 probably and abandon this pawn. Spassky, this is actually kind of a Spassky favorite, this close Sicilian where white does f4 e5 as sort of sacrifice to get to the c5 pawn and destroy the sort of strong point in black's pawn structure. It's always interesting. I mean, white gives up their strong point on e4 to actually take out black's strong point on c5. And I don't know, you know, it always seems to be good for white, that sort of pawn sacrifice in the close Sicilian for some reason. It depends on how black plays. I mean, if I played e6 and weaken my dark squares, it's usually more effective. Yeah, this is a Botvinnik English kind of. I mean, the traditional Botvinnik English is where white does g3. So far he's transposed to the game with the troll. Maybe different move order, but same basic formation. We can play e6. We can play knight f6. We can play some hyper modern moves. Maybe like rook b8 with the idea of a6 and b5 isn't at all bad. Maybe a little early though. You could even play e5, but I'm not a big fan of weakening my d5 square. The symmetrical Botvinnik English. So really the big question for black is deciding, you know, how to develop the king side in this type of position. E6 or knight f6. I'm not really a big expert on this. A6 and rook b8. Rook b8 is not a bad plan. I think it's more effective with the bishop on g2. Bishop has gone here. We're playing like a6, b5 to get this rook off the long diagonal. So I'm of course terrified that, you know, I think Thug Life is an established account. I'm still like paranoid though, because he's playing the same line that strange troll account played against me Friday. But the thing is with this, I mean, I've seen this pawn back on c2, and I mentioned this in my previous stream that there is actually a known variation, sort of like with a quick bishop e3 and bishop e2 for white in the closed Sicilian, but it's a little unusual to see it with c4 and e4. But I saw a few GM games with this weird formation with like c4, e4, and f4. Maybe Mitsis, it's a very creative Latvian GM who plays the English often. I think he actually might have been one of the villains. One of the villains who played this bizarre setup. He plays a lot of strange experimental stuff. Edmunds Mises, he plays like the snake Benoni, for example. Now I really need to consider maybe knight d4. Stopping white from playing d4, if I may. And now with the knight on d4 and adopting this sort of setup, I think I'm better off continuing with e6 and knight e7 in this sort of formation. Booker Smith's going to play in the classical under 1600 tournament. Yeah, I wanted to think about that in a future stream. Maybe we'll, one of these days, this week or next week, we'll play in a tournament here on lichess and stream it. I know a lot of players do that, especially with the bullet tournaments, but I'm not interested in bullet, of course. So I would stream like probably classical tournament. The 10-0 classical tournament would be good. There's one that starts at 9. It's a little early though, so maybe to do it in the evening one day would be better. I don't really want to make the stream any earlier than it already is because, well, that might attract some more Western players actually. So something to consider. I don't know if our European viewers want to see me streaming any earlier than 10 a.m. CEST already. But there is a classical tournament. Of course, there are like hourly tournaments too. Is there a classical hourly tournament that starts at 10? I don't think so for some reason. Played rook c1. I don't know. Rook b1 with the idea maybe like queen d2 would be interesting. The closed Sicilian is very, very solid for white. But the setup that Thug Life is playing here is not very popular. But I don't see, that it's like concretely bad for white. I'm just going to play very solidly because I'm not sure how strong this player is. And I think that we shouldn't put too much stock in ratings online. Thug Life is 1784, but that's blitz. This is classical. Number 1. Number 2, I've never played this opponent before. And there's a tendency to underestimate people who are lower rated than you. So I just don't think it's a good idea. You should really treat everybody like they're a very strong player. I mean, sometimes I think the best approach is to just take every opponent and say, look, this guy, I'm going to just treat every single opponent like it's Kasparov or whoever you want to whoever you want to project as the best, in your mind, the best player in the world. You just take every opponent like they're the best player in the world and then try to play your best possible game against the best player in the world. I think that's just a good way to deal with it, so you just don't underestimate people. Blue Crow actually would like it earlier. Siroche. Yeah, you had 2 ways to win. I had 2 ways to win your rook. Yeah, King C3 was a terrible panic move. Guys, that those of you that don't know, I do a simul every Sunday at I got an echo in here. A simul every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. CEST. Last night, no exception. We did the simul. Alright, bishop d7. This is a quiet move, but it's a quiet position. What can I do here? I don't really want to take his bishop. Some people are big fans of the bishop pair, but when you have a structure where it's like, site update in progress. We'll get an extra 15 seconds, hopefully. I think bishops are overrated in closed positions, so yeah, we got 15 seconds for the site update. Bishop f4 now. Highlighting the downside of my move, bishop d7. Not a big deal per se. He does have good control on e5 now. How about bishop c6? Bishop c6. Queen c7 is an alternative. This bishop. I mean, maybe it makes more sense to play queen c7 and actually kind of develop a piece here. Lining up all my pieces for him on this diagonal, but black is very solid here. Not a lot of excitement in this kind of closed Sicilian, but what can I say? What can we say? It's just the nature of the beast. If white doesn't want to do anything aggressive, you know, you can't just beat them by force. The closed Sicilian is really, really solid. There's a lot of play in this position. The game's just essentially starting now after 14 moves. Just starting. I don't know, in that position, maybe I should have seriously given thought to taking the bishop on e2 at that point. Because I'm not going to get another chance. But anyway. We take with the pawn and we get a preponderance of pawns in the center area. He doesn't have knight d5. Knight b1. And we go for a transition of pawn structure to like playing for f5 probably. White's very solid though. Kind of King's Indian attack. Hard to break it down. Bishop h6. I think now black's better. Too much space. Bad bishop. And I have an interesting tactic here. Bishop a4, which actually wins material. But he will get some counterplay. Bishop a4, take. I guess if it wins material, it wins material. I don't know. Maybe I can prepare it. I'm not sure that this is actually best or not. Alright, well, material is material. I don't know. I wanted to play f4, but he has bishop h4, kind of an awkward move. I can't trap the bishop. You should take on a4 and give up the exchange and maybe grab on a6 at some point. This isn't good. You can do like g5. He's going to play maybe knight f1. Maybe not g5 then, I don't know. Psst. I don't really want to take here unless I have to. g5. Okay. I'm kind of hemming and hawing about a very good position where I have a lot of choices. So, yeah, I figured that, but we just have this crushing space advantage here. And I've got like knight c6, knight d4. If he takes on e3, otherwise he's losing both exchanges now. He's actually losing both exchanges. It's definitely not good. So we managed to pick up a full rook. Troll control. That's what we call it. This new idea of not accepting people less than 50 games. Good idea. Thug Life is not a troll. He also doesn't want to resign here. We've got to finish him off. It's our duty to finish him off. Alright, thank you for the game. You just... I don't know what to say you did wrong. I mean, a little passive opening, but probably it should have been okay. Blue Crow, Fresh Clam, Azim Lee Sotari. who almost beat me yesterday. He had a winning position, close to winning position against me in a very closed Dutch-like position, but somehow I managed to block it up and draw. And in XX, so both guys fixed their challenges. If you lose your challenge, guys, let me know on the Twitch stream, and I can put you back in the list, because sometimes people lose their challenges. I'm going to play E4 against Blue Crow. Blue Crow, this is a blitz game, I just realized. Okay, so G6. What did I do yesterday? I thought I had a G6 game. I guess not. I've played C3 a lot. This is my own opening that I like to play a lot as black. Here's the thing, guys. I think that playing against your own opening is actually kind of tough. I was talking about this with my opponent yesterday. I was black in a King's Indian, and my opponent in my tournament in Hungarian, or sorry, Budapest Team Championship, he plays the King's Indian too. And actually, Irvin was afraid of a lot of moves that I had, because he's like looking at the position from black's perspective. I think it's hard when you play against your own favorite opening. It really is. So he saw like more ideas for me than he saw for himself during the game. That's the impression I had. He was kind of envious of my position. That's a bad thing. I mean, you got to be objective. So sometimes you play against your own opening. Blue Crow playing the Ugel here. The Ugel. A5. And he plays this all the time. Yeah, I mean, it's very popular opening. Accelerated Dragon. Since my former trainer, Roman Gigiashvili, started to, many years ago, do videotapes and stuff on the Accelerated Dragon. I think he did a lot to help to popularize it. But this opening was popular with all my friends back in the old days, in the old country. Queen E1 and Queen H4. Yeah, this is theory. I mean, this was very popular in the 90s. I remember watching some of my friends play each other in this variation. I've played the Oigel a couple times with black, but I don't know the theory that well. I mean, A5 isn't my main move. I played it against Samsonisti once with black, but lately not so much. Actually, I borrowed some ideas from Grandmaster Wojtkiewicz too. You can play A5, you don't have to play Knight G4. You can play other lines too. This is probably the main line of this particular variation. Rook A6. Now, I don't know why not like Bishop H6 here. Is the idea that you do like Rook B6 and you simply... Blue Crow says A4 usually F3 then. What do you mean by that? I mean, A4 and F3 are both variations. They're both different. What do you mean F3? A4 for black and then F3. A5, F3. Well, I mean, if it's a different variation, yeah, they're all playable. F3, castles. There's like 4 different moves for white. But I'm not that up on the theory. As I said, I played just sporadically a few times for black this line. I like to use the move order A5 sometimes, but I don't know the theory in the main lines too well. At that time when I played Samsonista, that was back in like 2005 or something, and I actually had studied quite a bit, but I've forgotten Forgotten all I know 10 years ago. Could find my own game, I wouldn't even remember half of the ideas I had when I played that game with Nisty. I call him Samsonista, but he's Samsonisti. Any fins here? And d6. The d6 looks like the wrong idea. I don't know. I mean, what's up with rook a6? I guess it's not a bad move. I mean, you can transfer to c6, but I thought the rook a6 had to do with like going rook e6, like pressuring e4 and guarding e7. Now I can put a lot of pressure on e7. The bg5. Maybe it's nothing. Knight. Well, no, knight d5. Yeah, I mean, you could play knight d5. It's interesting. Knight d5, rook e8, I guess. Maybe I should develop a piece, but then black is time for bishop e6. Knight d5, rook e8, I suppose. Bishop g5, f6. This is probably a good move to throw in there. I'm just thinking the rook, okay, it can go to c6, but that's kind of the main idea. I mean, to put the rook on e6. e6 is an interesting square in this accelerated dragon. I mean, sometimes the queen can go there too. Like queen c8, queen e6. Bishops go to e6, queen d7, queen e6 ideas. Sometimes queen a5, queen e5, queen e6. e6 is a square where black can sometimes put pressure on e4 with the queen or with the rook. So I think this d6 is questionable, although it's not a bad move in terms of being like a blunder or something. I'm just not sure if it's best. Although rook e6 there, I'm not sure was right either. Maybe this is fine for black. I don't know. Rook e8. Rook e8, bishop g5, f6. Wow, he goes for this. Okay, well, that's an inspired move. Bishop g5, f6. Knight takes e7 check. Yeah, I mean, I sort of just assumed that you couldn't do this. Maybe I was wrong. Now, this is a bizarre position. Alright. Knight takes check. What if I do something like bishop h6 now? Bishop g5. f6, knight takes g6 check. King g7. The heck is going on there? Bishop h6 is also possible. I don't know. I don't know. Don't ask me. It seems like white should at least be okay here. Maybe bishop g5 is better. I couldn't really calculate. Bishop g5, f6, knight takes g6 check. King somewhere. It should be good for me, but I have several pieces hanging. So I started to panic. But probably I should do bishop g5. Now bishop g7, I didn't anticipate that. Okay, well, If worse comes to worse, I can play g3. It's a really pathetic move. Entirely pathetic move, but I'm running out of ideas. Alright. Not so bad though. I mean, I'm up pawn. It's probably best under the circumstances. I forgot you could do that. So now, black is okay here. He's down a pawn, but my pawn structure is kind of messed up. So I guess that it's sort of drawish. Well, I didn't expect that recapture. I thought you take with the rook. I think your recapture is a little riskier. I mean, I remain a pawn up here. Black may be okay, but you are down a pawn. Still drawish, I suppose. Man, this is tough to make progress. It's a good move. I was really hesitant with the move bishop h6. I should have played bishop g5. What pawn? Oh my god, I'm not up a pawn? I thought I was up a pawn. Shit, that's so funny. I really thought I was a pawn up. Why did I think I was a pawn up? I don't know, Plucro. I thought I was a pawn up, but I'm clearly worse. That's what happens when you start to have hallucinations. He's not only fast, but he's strong too. Whoa. I mean, I allowed that. What am I doing? Seriously. Both sides have made some. I don't want to see the center pawn lost for this game. I mean, this is really out of control. Not a well played endgame by both sides. Looks like I'm winning now. Certainly gave me a scare there. I was like, oh, I hung my rook. Jeez. What? Okay. I can't imagine a hyper bullet game. Sudden death hyper bullet. How stupid it would get. It's not chess anymore. It's something else. It's a kind of version of chess. I know rook against 3 pawns. You get kind of unclear. A queen against 3 pawns. Queen against 3 pawns, man. We played badly that ending. Yeah, you were totally winning. I mean, I thought I was a pawn up. I would have played differently if I had known I wasn't a pawn up. I probably would have realized I need to fight for a draw. What happened to all the challenges? Did we get disconnected or something? 42 rook b6 looks strong for me, he said. If we go back here, I played rook b6. 42 rook b6. Rook b6, what? But 42 rook b6. I don't know what move order, exactly what move number you're talking about. I played rook c6, g5. Oh, well, I don't have rook b6 because he can take and go back. You thought that I had rook b6 on move 43, but he can take and he's still in the square of the pawn in that position. So, okay, we missed a lot of moves. Azim Lisutari, Malats, and Chess Panic. Chess Panic. Check Chess Panic has a. Oh yeah, these guys are established accounts. Malats. These are established accounts. That's cool. Alright, I like e4. But I really hesitated there. I mean, I think that I had a strong position. I'm sure bishop g5 was winning. And I just kind of wussed out with bishop h6. I don't know why. I mean, if I play bishop g5, he has to play f6, allowing knight takes g6 check, and then I have 2 pieces hanging. But it's not really. Actually, I have 3 pieces hanging. My rook on a1, my knight on g6, and my bishop on g5. But I can take his rook on h8. I don't know what's going on there. Pretty unclear. Probably good for me somehow. Azim Lisutari yesterday played fantastically. Not a perfect opening, but improved. And then knight f6 here. It's kind of awkward. I think I have to play queen e2 now and go into a form of the whirl attack. Pi Standards, you're welcome, man. Listen, what's up with my well, I've got a drop frame or 2. Well, what's going on with that? You guys, let me know if you're seeing the video here. I had lost a very, very little bit, like a few frames, but it's probably not a big deal. Yeah, you meant rook b6 because it trapped his rook, but yeah, it looks like his king gets back in the corner. Thanks for the compliment. Keep an eye on the stream because I do have just a few drop frames, and hopefully it won't be a problem, but you never know. Blue Crow. So Queen e2 whirl variation. There's a strange debate about this opening variation where white plays Queen e2 in the Spanish. I've seen in a lot of places it called the Warmald variation, you know, and I don't think that's right. I think that it's supposed to be the whirl variation, and there's some kind of like misnomer going on about that, and it's spread to like chess websites and databases and stuff. But as far as I'm concerned, this is named after Worrell. Bishop g4 here, very aggressive move. It looks a little bit over the top, honestly. This bishop g4. I mean, I don't think that black could ever consider giving up the white square bishop here. I guess it stops d4 though. Or does it? It doesn't really stop d4, actually. h3, okay, fairly useful move. And, you know, now we've driven the bishop off to h5, in which situation it's often out of play in these type of positions. He doesn't even stop d4. I could play d4, but I'm not sure if I want to play d4 or not in a situation where my queen is on e2. It depends. Maybe here, quietly d3 and knight d2, and you know, that's probably a standard kind of approach. I think the d4 is playable though. It's playable, but this is a little more solid with d3. It's a matter of style. This is probably playable. a6, bishop takes c6, pawn takes c6. I have to give up my bishop though. I'm not that convinced by it. More in the style of the Worrell attack is d3. I did recent videos for a site I work for, chesslecture.com, and I did a lot of focusing on avoiding the. I did a whole series where I do talking about games where white avoids the Berlin defense. So queen e2 is a good way to play and avoid the Berlin defense. Now he plays a6. If I exchange, it's a tough call. Bishop takes c6 is okay, but I'm not in love with it, so I'm going to keep my bishop long term. Mullots, you can actually do whatever you want, man. If you want to listen to the stream, that's fine. That's one of the reasons why I made the games unrated, because I'm at a disadvantage. So I was having a hard time playing against stronger players who were you know, able to both listen and just have more time, because I'm used to like spending a lot of time on my commentary. So do what you feel good about. It doesn't matter to me. You're welcome to listen to the stream while you play. Some people find it distracting. It's completely up to you. So knight bd2. You know, we're gonna play like Steinitz here. I haven't castled kingside. There are old games that Steinitz played where he, you know, would even castle queenside sometimes later on after starting a kingside attack. It's not out of the realm of possibility to castle or not castle, or delay castling, or even maybe some weird situation castle queenside for white. But the bishop on h5 is a piece that can be out of play, and that's what we're kind of banking on here. It's lost its influence. If you look at the position on the queen side, all these squares, all these squares, this whole complex of white squares are squares that potentially that bishop on h5 could have been like a kind of guardian of, and so when it's gone, it's pushed off to h5 on the side of the board. Later on, oftentimes you have problems on those squares. There may be something that happens, you know, on the white squares. So that's our hope. And we'd like to have like bishop takes f3. And you guys might be asking, why not g4? It's an interesting question, and g4 is possible. He trades. Never make automatic captures, guys. I mean, every move deserves consideration. Maybe here, you know, Think outside the box. Pawn takes toward the center, open the G file. White has attacking chances. And F4 maybe. Not a conventional way of playing for white, but interesting. What is he going to do after that? Like knight d7? Knight d7, man, that looks dangerous for black. Maybe he just plays like g6. And we could try to attack primitively with like h4, h5, and f4. Alright, but let's play pure positional chess here. This is a very interesting recapture. The Bronstein style. D5. I was talking about this complex, you know, and the question is, can you afford to do that? I mean, do you have enough control of the white squares to do that here? I mean, bishop b3 and also bishop g5. I've got bishop b3 now. Does he want to play like bishop c5 or something? Maybe he does take knight a5, and I don't have to hurry though. Maybe just castles is better. Knight f5, castles. Let's just castle. There's really no rush here. His white squares look they look suspicious. Also bishop on a4. Strategically, he'd like to trade his dark squared bishop on g5 to trade off the bad bishop for my bishop pair, trade off one of my bishops. But how to manage that here is unforeseeable. Black barely has enough control of the center. He's barely hanging on to control of d5 in this position. So there's like no way he's going to be able to move his knight from f6 and magically, if he could magically play bishop g5 and it were defended, you know, like there was a pawn on h6, and he could play bishop g5, maybe that would be good, but it's not happening here. Pawn takes pawn, pawn takes pawn, knight d7, bishop f3, or bishop b3 looks really nasty, rook d1. So this kind of, the effect of playing bishop g4 and bishop takes f3 is strategically enormous. What's the deal with the trap bishop in the Spanish? I noticed a lot of games, white leaves the dark bishop there forever. You're talking about the bishop on h5, or you're talking about my bishop like on a4? Mr. Sovereign, I don't know what kind of link you're posting there. You want to let us know what it is. Bishop b3. The thing is, if I play bishop b3, he can play like knight a5. Well, take knight a5, and I kind of lose the tempo. You could say bishop b3. I also could play like pawn takes pawn, knight takes pawn, though. That's very interesting. Still nothing concrete there for me. So maybe I have to settle for like bishop c2. Well, b5 is a good move. You could also take on d5, but I don't see it's really coming from that. Now d4. Yeah. But we've got a lot of ideas here. Queen g3, bishop g5. The other thing is that there's a knight on f5. It's not a friendly piece for black, and you know, largely possible because there's no white square bishop to take it off. But also, you know, black would have liked to have played g6. Now it weakens the dark squares too much. It's a Magnus Carlsen movie trailer. Yeah, just let us know if you post a link in the stream, so we know it's not like something totally random. Bishop knight f5. Yeah, if you do post a link in the chat in Twitch, just a kind of like a little note as to what it is would be kind of useful. Bishop g5. Bishop g5 looks pretty strong. Got everything here. A little bit of everything. Two powerful bishops, kingside attack, and his d4, we just calmly ignore it. There's also sometimes queen g3, but I have to watch out for this defensive move knight h5. So we're threatening, I guess we're threatening knight h6 check. I mean, even that may not be that devastating for black. But his pawn structure is kind of destroyed after that. And that's the main problem. Well, black might be able to survive here. The problem is he's really at the point where he has almost no constructive move that doesn't weaken his position. I'm not sure that white has a forced win, but it's awkward when you really can't improve your position. So I think that white's just going to incrementally improve. I mean, I don't have to knock him out with knight h6 check. If it doesn't win by force, it probably does, though. I mean, I don't see a defense. Yeah, knight h6 check, take. Whew, that's brutal. And what does he do? He has no move. There's no defense. Threat of queen and mate. It was practically impossible for black to find a move there. Good enunciation by me. Practically impossible, it sounded like. Practically impossible. So, yeah, it's mate and the threat of queen. So there's no time for bishop e7 or whatnot. This is the Worrell attack in action. White square bishop. It's mate. White square bishop, nel cool, we'd say in Madurul. Without the white square bishop. Malats. Oh, 8-7. Okay, I'll let it slide. The increment's just a bit large. Now I accepted his challenge. We don't normally play with the 7-second increment Malats, but rather than making a re-challenge, I'll let you get away with it. Yeah, Saronche, actually we should both take a look at the Mubat features. I didn't disable links. I guess there is a way to do that, but I don't want to be like a tyrant, you know. I don't want to be a complete tyrant in the Twitch stream. So if people post links, I just ask that they sort of leave a disclaimer as to what kind of link they're posting. Bishop c5, and we're taking this pawn off. What is this? Some sort of gambit? Not sound. It is not sound. This is kind of a hyper bullet opening, I would assume. You can also promote your YouTube channel and PayPal donations. Good idea. We could actually enable Twitch updates. It's something I was going to do, but I haven't had time to do it. It's a sensible move, bishop e7. Black's down a clear pawn, as you guys are probably aware. So g3 looks like a solid kingside formation for me. Whenever you fianchetto the kingside bishop, you tend to get a solid kingside. It's hard to checkmate with the fianchettoed bishop on the board. So if I opt for g3 rather than like e3, my kingside is generally safer. And here, yeah, I mean, I could try to get fancy with like knight d3, knight f4 ideas. But it feels a little fancy. I mean, I'm just going to retreat back to f3. But I think knight d3 was okay, probably. I mean, I have luxuries here being up a clear pawn. Cyrix. Oh my. Hello. So, every day we're here, Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. CEST, playing blitz and classical chess with the viewers. Bishop f5 looks like a reasonable move. We get the kingside fianchetto with a solid kingside, clear pawn up. Guys, normally I'm not playing this time control. He's challenged me to 8-7. The increment's unnecessarily big. Normally I'd ask that the largest would be like 8-3 for a stream game. Are there any big chess tournaments coming up that you're participating in? Well, nothing like enormously big. I'm really seriously considering going next month to a tournament here in Western Hungary near Pécs, which is called the Harkine Cup or something like that. Harkine is like a little town, southwest Hungary, but for many years has been a tradition of a relatively strong open tournament there. Normally like 10 to 15 GMs play, so it's not a weekend Swiss. It's a strong, relatively strong open tournament. That's what we're well, that's what we're looking for. Excuse me, losing my voice, guys. Now here, I'm thinking about playing like bishop h1. That's why I played rook e1. And another good move for white is probably just bishop g5 in this position, with the idea of just being willing to trade my bishop on f6, because I'm up a pawn, and it eliminates a kingside attacking piece for black. I think that's also a totally reasonable move here. Did you ever play Richard Rapport? Yep. It was like 27 moves or something. You can find the game in chessgames.com or something like that. Pretty sweet. That was the tournament where he made his final GM norm, actually, where I smashed him like a bug. Queen g4. No, I'm proud of that game. It was a beautiful game, actually, by me, if I do say so myself. The only game he lost in that tournament, and where he made his final GM norm. Queen g4, bishop g5, h3. That was back in like 2007 or 8. I don't know. It must have been like 2008 when I played Rapport. I don't remember. Maybe 2009. I guess it was later. Yeah, it had to be around 2009 because he hasn't been around that long. It could have been as late as 2010, but I don't think so. It was around 2009 when I played Rapport. Queen h5. So I was thinking of just playing bishop g5 and trying to trade some pieces here. That's a solid approach. Go and test your mettle. Well, yeah, I'm planning on it. I mean, I made the goal when I started to stream again, and not again, but started streaming and started working on chess full time. I have been out of chess full time for quite a few years, like 5 years. Obviously, playing is what I love. As a chess player the most, but time is money, right? e4. It's expensive and not easy to travel to big chess tournaments. Jeroen, our moderator here, invited me to Groningen at Christmas time, but the Christmas holidays is a really awkward one to kind of miss. So I think more likely I might play in Hastings in England at the end of the year. There's a traditional tournament where I've played maybe 3 or 4 times before. It's always fun. h6, bishop e3, I guess. securing the center. I've got knight h4, knight f5 sometimes. That's kind of a solid looking maneuver. So those are some possible chess tournaments I could play in. But as I said earlier, if anybody has any ideas or anything, you're always welcome to shoot it my way. Let me know if you know about a tournament or something that's really interesting. My email is videochesstrainer@gmail.com. It's the email I use just for chess, so please feel free to share any info you have about tournaments and whatnot. Knight h4, knight f5, queen f3. I hear the train leaving. It's like a sign. The train whistle blowing as I'm talking about going to these tournaments. I don't think I'm going to Hastings, England by train. Knight f5. You could go with the Channel Tunnel, but that's a pretty long haul. From Budapest. I'm streaming from Budapest, Hungary, guys. Alright. So we're building up some kingside threats, kind of similar to last game. Again, knight f5. What would Karpov do? I don't want to get my knight trapped or something silly like that, but I think g3 is... I mean, g3 looks pretty... g4, that is. Pretty solid. I'm putting my pawns on white squares. My bishop is mobile. I can defend with f3. That's a very solid move. Knight on f5 is just a monster. It's an absolute monster. He can't live with that piece there, but it's difficult to get rid of it as well. So, Callaway #1. Are there any dates on which Carlsen Nakamura matches on chess.com? Don't know about that. F3. Played those guys too. Score is not quite as good as it is against Rockport. H5. I lost to Carlsen, and Hikaru has +1 against me. You gotta beat them while they're young. I didn't manage to beat Hikaru. H5. Once I had him beat in a blitz game, but he knocked all the pieces over until I flagged with king and queen against king. I always like to tell that story. Queen d2. H5, sort of desperation. October 27th is the blitz match. Malev's tried h5, g6, logical. I mean, what else can you really do, to try to hang on here? Look at that queen just absolutely buried there on h7. We don't have to do anything. I think the best thing to do is not to be fancy. I don't have to play knight h6 check, or just sit there and just wait for black to fall apart. And just calmly... We could actually go knight h1, knight f2. Solid approach. Yeah, it's fine by me. Knight e2 is fine too. Black shouldn't really have any hope here, basically. There's no hope. There's always hope, right? Yeah, queen on h7 is like, well, I saw recently Nigel Short with a similar queen at, actually I did a video about this game. Short played black against Indian Grandmaster Seth Rahman at the Isle of Man, and had his queen on h7 in a very, very similar Similar sort of situation, but it's pretty unpleasant. Bishop c7. Black is eyeing the diagonal here, but difficult to do anything without like further, you know, pieces that can. The queen can't get in the game really. Now I guess take the e5, and the central pawn mass is massive. But Malus is a good try, man. I mean, you're actually trying to create some sort of hope for yourself, but this should really be too much. It's brutal pawn. Actually, f4. I should calculate a little bit. a4 is interesting, with the idea of a5 and taking out the d5 pawn. Malus is defending like a player who's used to getting bad positions but coming back. I will say. Some people who play the opening really well sometimes kind of give up when they get a bad position. But other players like myself and tenacious people will oftentimes, you can kind of notice, you know, the way they defend inferior positions. Gives a little bit of hint as to if they're used to doing this or not, you know. Is this a usual routine for Malus or not? Probably. He's not, you know, uncomfortable with saving bad positions. He's fighting. Now it's too much, though. He just lost c7. All right. Guys, we've got about 45 minutes left, 40 minutes. Chess Panic 1727. I don't think we have played before Chess Panic. It's been a while, though. Well, it must have been a long time ago that we played. I don't recall this game at all. C4. Chess Panic, where are you from? Spain. Okay, I do recall you now. Not that many players on my stream from Spain. C4. I'm going to play B6 today. Saji, who do you consider as the best player I have won over? Yeah, I mean, I guess if you go by current strength, maybe Rapport would be the highest rated one. But at the time he wasn't, so I haven't really beaten any like really super high level grandmasters in tournament games. A number of 2600, quite a few, 2600-ish, low 2600 grandmasters. I've won probably like over 40 games against GMs, but most of them are like average GMs. I could be more. I could be like 50. I'm not sure. I mean, it's a lot, but as far as really strong GMs, I don't know, a lot of like 2600, not a lot, maybe 10 players around 2600, low 2600s. But if you go by the rating, then maybe Rapport would be the highest one. That reached the highest achieved rating overall of the players that I've beaten, probably Rapport. I never beat Naka, I never beat Carlsen, I never beat Caruana. Never beaten like anybody in the top 20 except for like Rapport. Bishop g2. Well, I haven't played that many players like higher than 2600. A few. Bishop g2 here. These players I played like Carlsen, Caruana, Nakamura, mostly because I played them when they were younger. But I don't know who's the strongest player I've beaten. You know, players like Yermolinsky, who was over 2,600. I beat several times, but not that many. Not many opportunities, and I've lost to most of the really strong players I've played. Once I lost to a Kopi in a really embarrassing game in like 20 moves. Lembit Ol. So players who were like over 2,650 when I played them. Chess Panic played in the Hyperbullet tournament very well, really. Yeah, almost all the Grandmasters I've beaten in my life are like 25 something, or at maximum like low 2,600 players. The highest probably like 2,620. I don't think I've ever beaten anybody who was higher than around 2,620. FIDE. Rook B1. I haven't had too many opportunities, like a few. But my highest personal rating is like 2463 published. So I don't, get paired with that many people. I beat Alexander Onishuk, for example. I mean, he was like 26. He was like 2640 or 2650 when I beat him, probably. Maybe he's the strongest player I beat. As far as like rating over the board. At the time when I played them, Onishuk was probably the strongest one. Rook B1. Now what, like 97? Rook C8 is an idea. A3, knight F5. Okay, let's do Rook C8. Actually, this is a pretty neat idea here. A3, very early. He's just delaying his kingside development. Maybe I don't need to play Rook C8. I mean, why do I need to play Rook C8? He hasn't even played F4 yet. It's sort of silly, isn't it? Why am I preempting this? I mean, he has not even wasted a tempo with F4. So it would be stupid to play this. Rook C8. Yeah, I mean, to get to play players who are like 2650 plus, I mean, you've got to play in really, really strong open tournaments and either have a really good event or just play them in the early rounds. If you're 200 rating points lower, something like that. The first round of Zala Karosh in June, I played with Evgeny Romanov, who was like 2630, and I was better, but it was a draw. He actually tortured me for 20 moves at the end in a drawn position. But not easy to take out those guys who were over 2,600. B4. This is fine. This is a pawn sacrifice. Appears to be a pawn sacrifice. Multi-level pawn sacrifice. Very nice coordination of the white pieces. I like the way he's playing this in theory, but I'm not sure about it tactically. Like, knight takes b4 is possible, just directly eating the pawn. Also, bishop takes b4 is possible, because after bishop takes c6, I can play bishop takes c3 with an advantage. And the nice thing about bishop takes b4 is that it actually... You sure I'm not missing any tricks here? Like bishop takes b4, bishop takes c6, bishop takes c3, intermezzo. Bishop b7, rook c7. Shouldn't be a problem. I like bishop takes b4 because it develops a piece. You know, that's the argument for that move. But yeah, he actually has intermezzo here. Positional intermezzo. Although, I still think black is just better. Bishop e4, knight d6. Actually, complicated. Chess Panic, though. He's playing very fast. Very creatively. 1727. You guys say he played well in the... Are you sure he played? You must be confused with a different player. He's got like just 1300 in must be a different player in the Hyper Bullet tournament you're talking about. Hunger Kunstler. It must be a different player. There I thought that Bishop E4 was clearly best. So it seems like this way we keep our bishop, it's okay. He's got no, only 13 games in Bullet, and it's not a good rating, so it must be somebody else. So way to sacrifice the pawn here, but he maybe has a little bit of compensation, it appears. Maybe I was a little too fancy. Should have just played knight takes. A takes b4, knight takes b4. Threatening knight d3. I guess he castles or something, then I do knight d3 anyway. It's weird. But bishop a3, not really a problem, because I have bishop c5. This is very clean, a very clean position. Is there anything better? I don't really have any attacking threats. I think I have to do this. But I don't see White having anything great here. He's fighting for a draw, more or less. So I don't really trust this variation that much for White. Knight c3, allowing bishop takes f3. Better is probably d4. Pawn takes d4, or bishop takes f3, pawn takes f3, pawn takes d4, queen takes d4. That's the move that's kind of like considered to be the main line for him there. Now I'm going to take with the pawn and have a very solid outpost for my knight. A very, very solid outpost for my knight on d4. And this looks good. We've got the hole on d4, very solid structure. Pawn up. It should be quite difficult for White to hold this game. His hit notes welcome. Do you think at the level 2600 players absorb new chess ideas simply by seeing them once? I mean, I think that there are probably different types of players who are like 2600. There are guys who are like these supernatural talents, and there are others who sort of work their way up. And I think it's probably different. You can't just lump them all into one category, I guess. Rook b8. I could also play rook c6 actually, then queen a4. Abandoning the file. I don't really want to abandon the open file here. This is an important strategic part of the position. Sometimes fundamental stuff is really always the most important, of course. So we forget as masters, and we try to get too fancy sometimes, and it's oftentimes best just to play the fundamental move. But anyway, to try to answer this question, the 2600 players don't have too much to learn from most chess books. Well, that's probably true for the most part. Some are more human than others. We could categorize different players in different styles. The hardworking 2600s who ground their way up there, or the super talents who are like 15 years old, like Jeffrey Jiang or whatever. I mean, some people are just like photographic memory and total geniuses. Some people work their way through dogged determination up through the ranks, and their competitive nature. Now bishop b7. Yeah, I think that he's trying to, looks like he's trying to play bishop e4 again. Is queen a4 a threat? He's kind of like cutting off my... If I just castle here, though, it's probably best. Alright. I was just checking queen a4 to make sure, you know, I don't like lose my a pawn, and unfortunately I can pin him to his queen. You know, if he does like queen a4, I have queen c7. If queen takes a7, knight d6, and I win a piece. So he can't grab the pawn on a7. That's the problem. He can if he wants to. I mean, he's allowed to take this, just I don't think it's a good idea. So black seems clearly better. Still, my extra pawn is an Isolani on the a file. It's not that easy for me to win. But there's another strategic problem here, you know, that I may not even need that pawn. I've honestly won positions like this based on just the existence of the like good knight versus bishop that's not that useful, you know. It's not that bad of a bishop according to textbook principles. He only has one pawn on the same color as his bishop, so technically the bishop on e4 or wherever, it's not that bad. But it just, you know, in this kind of pawn structure where there's no pawn breaks, the bishop is very difficult to use. The second thing is that the queen and knight are a very good combination that coordinate very well together. So there's first of all the argument that his bishop just doesn't have anything to do, and the second part is that the combination of queen and bishop just isn't that well or that easy to use efficiently and coordinate like queen and knight. I could generate later on like serious threats with my queen and knight. He did this, so what's the deal with this? He's just losing a piece. I think he missed. He's not listening to the stream. Maybe he just missed. He just missed knight d6. It's not any more complicated than that. Who are some GMs who you view as the more dogged, determined type, the naturally talented? Question. Now he dropped everything. Well, I mean, there's a lot of journeyman players, you know, who have improved slowly over the years. I don't know, like off the top of my head, you could take a Russian grandmaster like Vladimir Bermakin or something like that, who's been like 2600, but he's like a technical player. He's, you know, very kind of boring. He doesn't have a lot of creativity. Actually, I like him, but he's, you know, as a chess player, I mean, it's not a guy who's like massively talented. You know, he's kind of just hung around and worked his way up from 2400 to 2500 to 2600. You know, that's just like one player I can think of off the top of my head. Not that he doesn't deserve to be 2600 or whatever, just it's a different type of player. Hisitnuns challenging me to 5-5. Urya 5-5 and Dos 6-3. This will probably finish off the stream, these 3 games. D4. You're welcome for the game. Kasparov was both determined and naturally talented. Yeah, I mean they're players. Fischer, Karpov. Usually takes both, I guess. But you know, I think that like Kasparov was actually more. Maybe Karpov was mostly dogged and determined. Karpov not that much talent compared to other world champions. He's talented. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's not a flashy kind of talent. Bogo Indian. Yeah, such a difficult opening to play for white. Very closed, very hard to get an edge. It's no wonder more people play knight c3 and go into the Nimzo Indian. It's more dynamic for white to play I think knight c3. Yeah, I think we can argue that Kasparov had more natural talent than a Karpov. I'm not sure Karpov would be happy, but I'm not sure he would argue with it either. Work ethic, very hard for a Karpov style. But Fischer also both, like Kasparov. He worked very hard. But Fischer's problem was like that he, didn't want to analyze with other players, I think. He was very selfish and paranoid, and he didn't want to share his analysis, and he didn't want to risk other people stealing his analysis. But in the end, he was going to have to face Karpov, who has a team of like 15 people helping him. I mean, maybe Fischer just realized that, if he has to face this massive team, his odds aren't so good. So I don't know. But as far as talent and determination go, Kasparov and a Fischer, I mean, these guys had both for sure. Talent and maybe d5 here, just getting the space advantage. I guess this is just standard theory. I don't know what I'm really thinking about. But one of those positions where maybe the exchange of one pieces is enough to kind of take the sting out of White's space advantage. I also played the Queen's Indian with Black, and I mean, to me this is more like a Queen's Indian than a Bogo Indian. After maybe it's even a transposition. It's also like very, very close to a bishop f6 mainline Queen's Indian, because the bishop actually taking on c3 and like rook takes in those lines, it's exactly like one of those variations. I think f4 is interesting too for White. I had a game with a French IM in Aeroflot back in 2004. I can't remember his name now. But I was Black in a position like this, and I think the guy, it was a draw. He ended up doing something like f4, and it looks like White has a pretty serious kind of space advantage, but on the other hand, not a kind of position I like to play in blitz, really. I mean, White needs to be very precise with the space here, not weaken myself too much, but yet try to exploit the space advantage. It's very tricky with two sets of pieces off the board. I said earlier, one set of pieces. There's two sets of pieces off the board. So, hard to use the space advantage here effectively. So, the more pieces you can trade, the less meaning the space advantage has. Now, his notes here played pawn takes pawn, and we can argue this is a risky move. I'm not saying it's bad, but you better have a plan in store, because these pawns have a lot of dynamic potential. f5, wow. This is getting interesting. It could even be like a known position for all I know. e5. Ooh. e5 is possible. That's probably the right idea. I mean, it's possible to find some kind of tactical lines, but hope I didn't miss something here. He just very casually, he casually reacted. I was kind of concerned that I had missed something, but apparently he really lost a piece. Okay, it's not trivial though. Black has 2 pawns for the piece. White needs to be precise here. My bishop could get trapped. So let's throw this in. See a check, play a check. I don't know. And do I want to allow him to have a protected pass pawn on e4? You know, that's the other question. I mean, it's just very primitive of me to like think about trying to checkmate black here. I need to consolidate my space advantage. Maybe pawn takes pawn, knight takes, knight f3. Some dangers. Maybe blockading and allowing him to... Then again, can I afford to let him win the pawn on f4? Not that easy. Not that easy. Black has practical counterplay. Alright guys, let's bear down and find the best plan. He's down a piece, but he's playing very fast. Damn. This should be good. Not so easy. Queen f3. Blockading. I don't know what to do. And c6 like almost wins a piece for him. Man, I have 57 seconds left. It's a 5-5 blitz game. He has 2 pawns for a piece. My king will be safe on h1. I played e4. Oh, so this will just like win the piece back. Fantastic. Now I'm gonna like lose a piece to c6. That was really smart. I have to actually sacrifice the piece back here, and I'm an idiot. Wow. Queen e3. Terrible blunder by me. I don't know what to do. Fighting for a draw. Hisset nuns. Just calmly lost a piece, no problem. Well, this is classical 5-5. I thought it was blitz, but 5-5 I forget is actually classical. See, he's not actually that strong in blitz. He's like 1600 in bullet and 2000 in blitz. But in classical, he's 2200. But he played very fast here. Man. Made a terrible blunder with queen f3. It's a difficult position here, honestly. I guess I should just take on e5. I started seeing all sorts of ghosts, but I mean, in retrospect, I should just take on e5. Knight takes e5, bishop g2, knight g4, knight f3, or something like that. So I panicked and played queen f3. A terrible blunder. And then e4. And here, knight takes e4, pawn takes e4, bishop takes e4, queen e4 check. Might have not even been that bad. Rook e3. I'm begging for a draw in all variations. The Cheddarman says e5, are you mad? Well, it did win a piece. Kind of a strong move. But I just panicked here. I didn't know what to do. I should just take on e5. I mean, I'm up a piece for 2 pawns. Black should be fighting for a draw there, not me. So knight takes or not. He's playing very fast. We're lost here. Down a pawn, at least. With a bad structure, an open king. Oh, wow, he found 95, too. I don't have an answer for that move. No, nice game. Impressive. Really impressive. Although it was a catastrophic blunder from me. If we look, he has compensation for the piece. How much, I don't know. This is a very bad mistake by black, but it turns out he has some compensation. D6 takes, and now rook e8. And this was apparently my blunder. Bishop d5 check. I should play anything else but that. So bishop d5 check is a mistake. And then queen f3 loses by force. But already black has full compensation for the sacrificed piece. Sacrificed, in parentheses. Sacrificed piece. It's kind of amazing. He has just 2 pawns for a piece here. And black black is okay. Bishop d5 check, an innocent mistake, but difficult position. So congratulations, man. That was a tough game. I don't know. I thought pawn takes pawn here. Black's actually better. Well, this engine, okay, I don't know, but he has full compensation for the sacrificed piece with just 2 pawns for a piece in this position. This is what I would have played. Probably bishop g2 here. Bishop g2, then queen c5 check and knight g4. Could be dangerous, actually. Wow, this is hard, man. I mean, much harder for me to play than for black. It was much harder for white to play than for black. If it was a tournament game, I probably would have had good chances to win, but there, all the chances were more easy for black to find moves. Urja 5-5. The increment 5-5. Yeah, I didn't realize bishop d5 was a bad move, but I started to get low on time already at that point. So bishop d5 check. Well, I mean, my first concern was the bishop getting trapped on b7. You know, actually, I thought I was actually helping my bishop by playing bishop d5 check, that it wouldn't get trapped on d5. But I forgot to realize that e4 is actually a new threat to trap the bishop. So, but I really didn't realize that black had so much compensation going into that. I thought, okay, he'll have 2 pawns compensation for a piece. I mean, it's not really enough, but actually that particular position I have to be very accurate. So I don't know, the computer said bishop g2, which makes sense right away. Okay, Urja, another strong player, 2019. Oh, we have a Finn. Alright. So, I was asking, is anybody from... Was I asking that earlier? Yeah, I think so. Samsonisti. Castles, d takes c4. I've played this position quite a few times. I remember once against... I lost with an Indian grandmaster. No, I can't remember. What is his name? Been a long time ago. Kunte, Abhijit Kunte, or Abhijit. I don't know how they pronounce it. Abhijit or Abhijit, I guess. It's not Hungarian, right? I lost against him in this position. But I was white. I think I was white in that game. So I played this line for both sides. Knight e2. I'm not really used to playing the 5-minute games. Yeah, Hisitnuns has that advantage. We're playing more of the 7-8 minute time controls. I get kind of lazy, and I start thinking that all the games are 8-7 minutes. And next thing I know, I'm losing on time. Bishop takes c4. I think knight c6, bishop e7, bishop e7. Oh, we must be on lichess TV. Wow, a lot of viewers suddenly. All right, I'm just gonna make the obvious move here. Self-trap the bishop on d5. That's a good way of describing it. Yeah, I did that, and it's just lost. I mean, or clearly worse for white at best after bishop d5 check, followed by the horrible queen f3. So I have to take on e5 or be very careful in general. bg5 here. Yeah, this is probably somewhat standard variation. But I'm already like way behind on time. Oh, this is rated. Oh my god. I'm so stupid. Did you guys already tell me that I was playing rated? Because Urge is not supposed to challenge me to rated. Yeah, Urja, no rated games in the stream. It's alright now, the damage is done. That's why we're on lichess TV. Because all games are rated on lichess TV, I guess. C'est la vie. Rook e1 looks pretty logical. b6. Something weird about this game. With the bishop on g5, just thinking like, oftentimes that bishop is on e3 in this line. But somehow he doesn't have to worry about his d4 pawn. It's always been protected. Yeah, generally I'm not playing any rated games at all on the stream. But I was so flummoxed by my last loss that I wasn't paying attention to the challenges. And we let one slip by us. Hisitnuns, it's all your fault. You completely upset me with that victory. You upset my equilibrium. And it all was going so good, you know, like Hisitnuns was just like losing a piece. And I just, well, that's a typical example, guys. Oftentimes we take players lightly after they make a blunder, like we did there with Hisitnuns. He reacted very practically. You know, normally people get upset, they drop a piece, they like, oh, curse themselves, and I don't know, you know. But Hisitnuns just kept moving. He didn't really care. He was like, oh, I lost a piece, no big deal. You know, I do that all the time. It's not gonna upset me, you know. Lose a piece, no big deal. You know, it's a pretty good attitude to have, actually. So bishop a2. Knight d5, knight a5. Maybe knight a5 here, a la Paco Vallejo likes to play the Queen's Gambit Accepted, or at least he used to years ago in Blitz, and I remember playing him one game, very similar. He liked to play knight a5 in these IQP positions. Vallejo, knight a5, and sometimes the knight's on the side of the board, it's a little out of play, but it also has, you know, potential to get into those weak squares, so anything could happen. It's a rated game on lichess TV, I guess. Knight A5. Well, he didn't give me any availability of... Actually, no availability of knight to B4, you know, as the classic kind of blockading idea, knight C6, B4. So, like in the Queen's Gambit, except it against Vallejo, we're seeing this. White plays A3. Against Vallejo, I think I played A4 or something like that in a QGA. But sometimes knight A5 was necessary for whatever reason in the QGA as well. Well, you'd think if White played A4, you wouldn't need to do that, but I don't remember the exact position. I just remember admiring Paco for the faith in knight A5. So we're not going to be too fancy here. I don't know. Not a lot of time to play anything fancy. He doesn't have queen D3. And B2's hanging. And I'd really like to pocket that white squared bishop. So White's played a little hesitantly. I mean, he could have played D5 straight up when I played B6. It's probably like a line right here. This might give White a slight edge. I just don't recall, you know, with a rook on E1, whatnot, the exact position. Black is comfortable now, I would say. These knights get kind of redundant, you know. I mean, I played the Rubinstein. This is the Rubinstein variation of the Nimzo. Actually, it's a Reshevsky variation, right? E3, then bishop D3, then knight E2. Okay, Reshevsky, but they're similar. Queen D3, I could play queen C8. Don't really like it. I think I like the solidness of rook back. The most solid move available. We've got rook C8. Rook C7, rook D7 is an idea there. Now we're looking at knight D5 maybe, right? And Blockadovich. This we go as solid as we can. Knight F5. Knight F5 has to be calculated. Knight F5 probably not a big deal. Famous last words. Probably not a big deal. I don't see it. It's got a check or two. Yeah, I'm sort of trying to lure him in. Knight F5. Dangerous looking move, but has its downsides. Wow, rook E5. Alright. Well, at the very least, I have this. That's why, I mean, you know, knight F5, queen G5 was clearly a problem. But I'm not sure this is that clear. You know, like taking on G2 actually looks a bit on the dangerous side. Although, queen H4. Queen H4, F3. Anyway, it still seems solid. Potential sacrifices. White doesn't have any concrete threats here. Wow, D5. Man, I don't know about that. He's trying to cheapo me. He's trying to cheapo me, I guess. Wow, look at this D5 move. What? Bishop takes d5. Urja. Pawn takes. Oh man, he's got... kinds of tactical ideas here. He wants to play rook h5. This is his big idea. It's pretty strong for 1900. Now there's queen e7, queen g4. This guy's like literally scaring the heck out of me. e7. There's no queen takes h7 mate. That's probably his biggest idea. Crap. Wow. We're up no material. Shit. Hard to believe he's 2000. Instantly found that move, winning a pawn. This is ridiculous. I mean, how can the guy be 2000? Five seconds. Another one. He sees another pawn instantly. What? All right, maybe we have a chance. Very, very fortunate here. Phew. That was scary, guys. He could have just been 2 pawns up for nothing, and he didn't take the second pawn. I don't understand. I mean, he played rook d5, and I'm just losing g5. He just has rook takes g5. So, really lucky. Guy played The guy played really well. Just like got nervous at the end and lost, but I feel very, very fortunate. Anyway, thanks everybody for joining my stream. We'll be back tomorrow, Tuesday, with more Blitz Classical Chess at 10 a.m. CEST. I'd like to thank everybody, Jeroen particularly, for being here and moderating our wonderful viewers. So exciting, their rated game, which I didn't really anticipate. Totally lost position, 2 pawns down, or could have been 2 pawns down, and we end up, the guy loses getting mated, but man, that's terrible. Anyway, guys, we'll see you later. Thanks for joining me. Bye-bye.